We'll get started in just a minute. There's a sign-up sheet if you want to go ahead and sign up. Senate Bill 369 has been removed from the agenda if you were interested in that one. It will be at the next one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Curriculum and Academic Achievement Subcommittee to order. So, welcome, Senator Burns. We've enjoyed messing up your morning here.
No problem. I enjoy it.
And Representative Rice, will you open us in a word of prayer, please? Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for each person here representing, making a difference for our students. Please bless this time together. Give us wisdom and guidance. In your name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. And once Chairman Chokus gets back up here, I think he has some special guests that are joining us today, and he is going to introduce them.
Cool. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce some folks from home. I'm always glad to see them. And this is a group of students from the Sumter County EMC, and it's their youth leadership cohort. And they're going to be shadowing me today and visiting the Capitol. So if you guys would stand up, we want to give you a round of applause. Thank you for making the trip up here. And it's no easy trek either. It's about 140 miles, so they got up early to get here. So thank you for being here, and we'll chat later. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for coming and welcome. We hope you enjoy watching a committee meeting. Senator Burns, you're presenting Senate Bill 171. And let's see, if you can go ahead whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the committee for the opportunity to share with you Senate Bill 171. I'm working off of SB 171 CSFA. There was a small floor amendment that we'll go through as we go there. But this is essentially a bill that ensures that Georgia students are prepared to take higher level mathematics as they progress through secondary to post-secondary. It does two very important things. It requires in middle school that school systems offer advanced mathematics courses through an automatic enrollment approach, so that in middle school, in 8th grade, 5, 6, 7, and 8, they can take advanced math to prepare them for the calculus or pre-calculus components in high school, which then sets them up for post-secondary higher level math in the STEM fields. So it also allows, but does not require, elementary schools to provide for advanced mathematics for students who qualify. And those qualifications really depend on the parameters established through the school system. So if you'll look carefully, it's a bipartisan bill. It ensures that students receive mathematics preparation. It has a straightforward structure. It creates advanced management pathways for grades 3 through 8 that culminates in a high school, high-level math course in middle school. So algebra in middle school, 3 through 7, 6, 7, and 8. Is that correct?
6, 7, 8.
6, 7, and 8. But allows for those students to be prepared even before that in the elementary school environment. The one change that was made, and to ensure that students have access, this is an automatic enrollment approach, so that if you are qualified, you automatically have this opportunity. The parents can opt out, but the students are enrolled. If you look carefully at lines 25 through 29, there was concern that we did not want to not make this available to students who would benefit from it. So a parent or guardian of a student who doesn't qualify for automatic enrollment can enroll their student in an advanced mathematics pathway if that student scores in the upper 50th percentile statewide on an end of grade assessment in mathematics. So that allows the parent to ensure that their child receives the mathematics preparation that would be appropriate, and it also ensures that that student is prepared and qualified to be successful in that. So I'm happy to have more conversation. I want to turn it over to Michael. Introduce yourself and kind of share the background on this bill and where it came from.
Absolutely. Michael O'Sullivan with Georgia Can. This is a bill that we're very excited about. It has, this is a process that has been in place in the state of Washington, for quite some time and has seen some significant success, particularly among minority students and getting them access to advanced math. And what's so exciting about what the data says about this is that when these students are enrolled in advanced math, that they succeed, that their proficiency level and the proficiency level of those students does not drop and remains the same. So you're adding more students who ordinarily could succeed to this course. It's also passed in North Carolina, Texas, and several other states are working on it now. But I believe the senator gave a good definition. I'll also say this is similar to legislation that this committee passed with Representative Donatucci's House Bill 1030. House Bill 1030 actually goes substantially further in some of the work that it does. This is only one component of her overall bill, and we're working very closely between the two authors to have something that's going to work for all of our students.
Okay, thank you. I see a question, Representative Carter.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Chair Lady. Thank you all for bringing this bill. So you kind of touched on one of my questions was, I was trying to understand the difference between this bill and the one from the House. So I think you kind of addressed that. But one of the things that always brings questions for me is when statements like it'll help minority students. And so I'm reflecting back when I was school, it was probably before they were born, some of our guests. As someone who was really, really good in math, I never had to really get permission to go to the next level of mathematics. And so I guess I'm trying to understand what has happened over the last 30, 40 years where we're having to do legislation to make sure that students have access to math.
I'm not sure that it's precipitated by the environment that we're in. I think it's really the opportunity for us to prepare students for advanced level math in elementary school, then in middle school, and then in high school, so that they are well prepared for advanced mathematics when they go to post-secondary education. At the end of the day, all students would benefit from the ability to take advanced mathematics if they are appropriately prepared and qualified. And I think the end of the day, the most important component here is the fact that in middle school, there will be advanced mathematics that would ensure that every student can enroll in that course, and if their parents choose to withdraw them, they can opt out. But otherwise, they're going to be enrolled, and they're going to have a clear path toward advanced math throughout their post-secondary career, preparing for their post-secondary career, and during their secondary tenure in middle school.
Yeah, no, I understand what your legislation is doing. I'm just trying to understand, why do we have to do it this way? Because I mean, to me, and again, it's been a long time since I've been in school.
Me too.
And we didn't. It was almost natural. This is what we did. I'm just wondering, like, are we seeing different things as different school districts, or I'm just trying to understand the shift.
Not all school. I'm correct in this. Not all school systems have an advanced mathematics path in that middle school sector.
Gotcha.
And this will ensure they have that, and it will ensure that students who qualify are automatically enrolled. So it allows them, doesn't require them to do that in the lower grades, in grades 3 through 5. But in grades 6 through 8, we want to make sure that every student has access to advanced mathematics, and that qualified students are automatically enrolled with the parents' ability to opt out.
Thank you.
And you're correct. House Bill 1030 similarly addresses these issues. And originally, this bill was Senator Anvartarte's, and I think he worked closely with the author of 1030, and so there's a lot of similarities there.
Let's see who was next. Representative Lupton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, thank you so much for the legislation. Two questions. Of course, we've seen 1030, and we discussed the qualifications for getting into this automatic enrollment.
Yep.
And I mean, amen for automatic enrollment. I have no problems with it. My kids might have been able to take advantage of it had this sort of system been in place. But we kind of standardized the qualifications for getting into this automatic enrollment. Is there a reason why this bill allows each school district to kind of build their own?
There was I agree with you, and the original bill adopted the qualifications, expectations that I think you saw in 1030.
Okay.
There was some concerns in our Senate Committee in Education where members felt that some students would not be given the opportunity, and they wanted to make sure that all students had the opportunity and it not necessarily be strictly based on a criteria that was pre-established by the school system. Now, we were able to get those concerns addressed by allowing the parent to request their student be included, but the caveat was they had to be in the upper 50th percentile statewide.
Okay.
And as you know, there great variability across our state in the ability for students to perform at a high level. Some schools can provide a higher level of instruction and a higher level of preparation. Other schools perhaps don't have that ability. The amendment that was in this bill was to allow parents the opportunity to request a child who was not automatically enrolled to be enrolled if they met that 50 percentile threshold.
Okay, great. One more, Madam?
Sure.
We've been hearing a lot about teacher shortages, and what impact is this going to have statewide if we've got suddenly a lot more advanced math classes and teachers needed for that?
I think you bring up a great point and a great concern. In order to deliver this type of a curriculum, you're going to have the qualified faculty, qualified teachers to do that. I will say that in most cases, it's certainly in our urban areas or in our suburban areas, that's not as big a challenge as it is or will be in our rural areas.
Yeah.
But the way that this bill is crafted is it is focused strictly on 6, 7, and 8 as a required curriculum and an optional curriculum at 3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
And I think that if we give our superintendents and our school systems sufficient time, that they will be able to achieve those goals. And my experience has always been that the greatest gift to a teacher is a highly motivated, quality student. Right? And so this type of a program will attract a teacher who loves to teach math.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Representative Rice.
Thank you for the bill. I really welcome the opportunity for our students to be able to have access to the advanced math, and I like the movement that we are making in the legislature to achieve that. My question is on line 16, we have on or before January 1, 2027.
Right.
That would be when the Board of Education would have the option available.
Correct.
I don't see in the bill when, I would assume, so would implementation be the August or the beginning of the next?
I would anticipate the following academic year, so the following school year, which would be, in this case, August. And I would point out that this bill was crafted in the last legislative session. So the time frame for implementation at that time was a bit broader and longer. So if the committee feels that it's appropriate to adjust that date, I certainly welcome your input.
Okay, yes, I was looking at the January 27, that's when it would be available, so I'd imagine most school systems would implement it the following fall. And
Fall
then
of 27.
And then the reporting period would be December 1, right?
Okay. Ms. Sullivan points out that the state board has the option of making that adjustment as to when they would have their school systems implement this. So it wouldn't necessarily, the legislation does not mandate fall of 27.
Okay.
It requires the state board to have this plan in place in January.
Right. Well, thank you for clarifying that. When we go home and we answer to these bills, a lot of times these parents are saying, I've heard this is available. Is
That's
this going to be
right,
available
now.
next fall?
Yeah.
And so that timeline is what I was looking at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Howard.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Chair Lady. And thank you, Senator, for the bill. It's love math. You may have already answered my question about automatic enrollment and then where a parent can ask to be in the program if that child is in that 50th percentile. Remind me of 1030. What is the automatic standard for getting in?
Yeah, I'm going to defer to Mr. Sullivan.
And in comparison with the 50th
Right, 50%.
percentile.
I think it's substantial. It's different. It's higher.
Yes. What 1030 sets out is they work within the bands of the previous end of course exam of distinguished learner being the automatic enrollment. In this legislation, if you look at line 20, the state board sets that line. So whatever the state board decides is the provision. In 1030, the parental opt-in is, for the proficient learners, whereas this legislation 171 is top 50%. And again, that is
The automatic opt-in is set by the state board, and we've left that, I believe in this legislation, we left that absent so that the state board can make that determination. But we did establish the bar that said if a student was not automatically enrolled, the parent could request their student be a part of the advanced mathematics, given the fact that they are in the top 50 percentile statewide.
Representative Adana, 16.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator, this is definitely a good bill. My background is as an engineer and working in the IT field. I nearly got a minor in math, so anything math I'm excited about. But going back to the bill, just to clarify, it's really to give access and opportunity for a math pathway, but it doesn't address any kind of fiscal impact in terms of trying to, okay. Madam Chair, one other comment I'd like to make. At the appropriate time, I'd like to, that this move a motion to do pass.
Okay, thank you. We'll wait on that just a second. We do have a speaker on the bill. Claire Beck. You can come down. Yeah, just.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee, for the opportunity to speak with you in regards to Senate Bill 171 this morning. I am Claire Buck, and I'm the Executive Director of GASIS. GASIS is one of the 7 affiliates under the GALE organization. And GASIS supports advanced mathematics courses, opportunities, but also successful completion and placement of students in these advanced courses. I have 4 points that I want to bring to you this morning, and we have been having conversations with the advocacy organizations that have been pivotal in the crafting of 171 in hopes that there might be a substitute that lines more closely to Representative Donna Tucci's Math Matters bill. So 4 points. One is the 50th percentile. We do have some concerns that this would place about half of our students in advanced courses that some of them may not be prepared to and will not be successful in. We recommend looking back at 1030 at the criteria that was established and approved by this committee. That would be an automatic placement in the advanced courses if they score distinguished, And if they score at the proficient level, that other pieces of data would be considered for placement in that advanced course. So that's point one. Point two is with the 3-5. And as was pointed out in the current language of the bill, it is optional to offer that 3-5. There are some concerns statewide that having the qualified teachers and the number of teachers that would be required to support that. But in addition to that, students in grades 3-5 need the foundational math skills that they are getting in those early grades in order to be successful in algebra and the higher level courses in high school. Districts currently have the ability to accelerate students in elementary school if they, are deemed ready and appropriate to take those accelerated courses. So we would just recommend either clarification of this being optional or the removal of the 3-5. The removal of the 3-5 would have no change in students taking a high school credit in middle school or taking the AP IB courses in high school. The third point is the middle school courses. Currently, the wording is a middle school pathway that would culminate in a high school course. We're just seeking clarification. There's some confusion out there about what a pathway would mean, and just simply changing it to advanced courses in 6th and 7th grade, which really goes in line with 1030 and the tenets of that, to really going deeper into the standards and not just going faster. The fourth point is in regards to the 8th grade course. Currently, the wording talks about just a course for high school credit, and we support what is in 1030 that states that that 8th grade course would be a course that combines the 8th grade standards with algebra to culminate in a high school credit in the 8th grade. We definitely, again, we support advanced mathematics. Again, we have been working behind the scenes with the advocacy groups that have been pivotal in developing this Bill 171, and just appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Do you have any further discussion, questions from the committee? Okay, Representative Adena, we'll go back to you then.
All right, I'd like to move a motion to pass SB 171.
We have a motion, we have a second. Representative Carter?
Yes, thank you. I was reflecting and re-listening to what that speaker was saying, and there were some points that she was making that could potentially be some amendments. So I didn't know if we wanted to address some of those, or would we, if there were some areas that we need to tighten this up, would we do it in subcommittee or full committee?
I mean, we can do it now if the senator's amenable to that. Do you have
We're happy to do it now, or we're happy to work with you between this committee meeting and the full committee meeting. And I acknowledge the fact, and I appreciate the input. As we try to move forward to create a more advanced, seamless pathway for students to take math, there are issues that we want to talk about, and I do recognize and appreciate, the House bill that has similar language, and I think one thing we might consider is finding a way to blend those two together.
So are you willing to let them work together with?
Is that okay?
Yeah, okay.
I appreciate that.
I mean, I think, they're both good bills, each have some good points, and I think when we can look at them together, they'll become even stronger and help our kids even more. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Okay, your bill is on to full.
On the full committee,
Congratulations.
And we'll work with the author of 1050 and the committee members here to clear up some things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, the second bill that was on our agenda has been removed for today, so we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
All right. Ladies, hello. Oh, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, if you take your seats, we are about to begin. A couple housekeeping items. We have a sign-up sheet up front. Sign up, make your voice heard, participate in the civic process. Nobody's signing up. That's good. That's good. All right, welcome to the Education Policy and Innovation Subcommittee on Education. We're going to start with our favorite tradition we do every time. We've got our state auditor here. That's cool. Keeping an eye on us. We are going to start with our favorite tradition that we do in education here. Do we have any teachers in the room? Teachers, or let's say educators. All right. You can applaud, guys. Do we have any students in the room? Good, they're at school learning right now. That's awesome. Representative Rice, will you please open us in a word of prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. I thank you for our schools. I thank you for our educators. And I pray that you bless the work that we do here and help us to use our time well. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I should recognize we do have our state school superintendent in the room. If you'd give a little wave. Thank you. All right, we've got one bill on the agenda today. That is Senate Bill 472. Chairman Hickman, if you would step up to the plate. And I'm going to read the LC number to make sure we've got working off the same one. There was a sub.
Yes, sir. It's LC 492799S.
That's the one we got.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I want to first of all, and I know we've talked several times about this in just a nonchalant way, but I just want y'all to know that Dr. Barrow gave us a list, and I gave it to our committee members yesterday, of all the House and Senate education bills that have been introduced this session. And I'll be glad to get y'all a copy of it. 22 bills have been introduced this session on education. And so the House and Senate together, working closely together, collaborating together, have really made this the important issue that it should be and should be for a long time. So I thank Dr. Barrett for that. He was a big part of helping us have a Senate Resolution 237, which got all these siloed people and silos together talking about it, and it has worked. So thank y'all for being a part of it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we've got a dozen or so bills in your committee, and so
That's right.
we look forward to those being heard. So
Yeah,
appreciate your partnership.
Yes, we're going to hear 3 of them tomorrow.
That's music to my ears.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Thank y'all for meeting with us. We all know the background on these bills. Floor Leader Will Wade presented the House bill to us yesterday, and we passed it out. We all know how critical this is. We know the circumstances behind it. As we said, we will not mention names. There's no need to, but it's something that we want to make sure that we correct going forward. So I'm going to probably be a little bit slower in the presentation because it is such an important bill and such an important thing to look at. So Senate Bill 472 protects students and families by holding local school districts accountable for financial mismanagement. This legislation strengthens the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts tools to support local school systems by identifying issues early and creating a statewide fiscal monitoring and intervention system by July of 26. Senate Bill 472 authorizes the governor to suspend local school board members upon recommendation of the State Board of Education if the local Board of Education, a member thereof, a local school system, or a local school superintendent is the subject of a finding by the state auditor of financial mismanagement or misconduct following an investigation. As y'all well know, in the House bill and also in the Senate bill, there's a lot of responsibility put on the state auditor. And we got a lot of confidence that Mr. Greg Griffin will follow through and do the right things. So let's talk about Section 1. Section 1 allows local school board members to be suspended if the district nearly lost its accreditation, or 1/2 or more of the schools in the local school system are turnaround eligible schools for the 5th or more consecutive year. This section clarifies that this applies to local school board members who were serving at the time the school system was subject of the finding or loss of accreditation. And Representative Wade made it very clear to us yesterday that that does not affect any board member that is replacing someone that was there during the problem. This is only for the ones that were there during the problem. Senate Bill 472 adds 2 new triggers that are tied to state audit results. If the state auditor designates a district as needing the highest level of monitoring intervention, suspension proceedings may begin. And then the second one is if the state auditor finds financial wrongdoing after an investigation, suspension proceedings may begin. When either of these triggers above occur, the local superintendent must notify the state education leadership within 3 business days. The state board must then hold a hearing. State Board of Education must then hold a hearing between 10 and 90 days and make a recommendation to the governor, who ultimately decides whether to suspend the board member with pay and of course appoint a temporary replacement. The key item on this is that previously audit findings primarily triggered corrective actions. Now they can trigger removal of board members. Big deal. So there is a reinstatement period. Suspended members must show their return would likely help improve accreditation or school performance metrics. Section 2. This section was added in Senate Education and Youth as an amendment from Senator Settler. When a local school district is designated as a high-risk school system by the Department of Audits, the contract for the superintendent may not exceed 12 months. Starting July 1, 26, any new contract for school superintendents must include provisions that if the local school superintendent is the subject of a state auditor finding of financial mismanagement or misconduct following an investigation, or has knowingly failed or refused to comply with material requirements of the intervention plan, that shall be cause for termination of the employment contract. Section 3. School systems can request early distribution of state funds to manage cash flow before local tax collections. And we all understand this because we understand the tax collections are based upon the digest and when it's approved and blah, blah, blah type deal. And we know that a lot of times we want it to all happen in October, November, December when the money starts coming in, but we know because of some reevaluation situations that may not happen as timely as we would like to. So this section actually addresses any type of forward funding. So this legislation places a cap on these advance payments at 50% of the district's total state funding from the prior fiscal year. So at no point in time can a school system receive more than 50% of the prior year state funding. School districts can exceed this cap, but only under the following narrow conditions, and those conditions are really monitored by the state auditor. The state auditor must formally say the extra advance is necessary and it will improve financial conditions. The auditor must create a formal monitoring and intervention plan. The local board must pass a resolution committing to strict compliance with the plan. Most importantly, the state auditor maintains final authority. State auditor maintains final authority over the contents of the plan, any modifications, and when the plan is considered complete. Now we're going to address the part that deals with the sub that we've given y'all. And that is in section 4, 5, and 6 of the bill, of the sub. Under current law, if an independent school system that operates its own locally funded public school system wishes to dissolve that system and join the county school system, at least 25% of the qualified voters in the area must submit a petition to the governing authority. The issue must then be placed on the ballot in accordance with the state election law. This sub would change the petition requirement from 25% to 10%. The rest of the process, that is, the issue must then be placed on the ballot in accordance with state election law, and that a majority vote is required for approval. Specific changes. Besides the change from 25% to 10%, all the changes are cleanup language in these sections. Although relevant cleanup language, given that this law was enacted in the 1920s. And you know, don't we see a lot of that kind of stuff around here where things are just not updated like they should have been? The change on line 290 from citizens of a municipality to qualified voters of the territory is simply cleanup language. The qualified voters are still those voters who would be in the specific independent city school district. And I think that may answer some of the questions from some of the people in the audience. The reason for several of the changes is that not all independent school systems have the same district lines as the city or municipality lines. They often are the same, but do not have to be by law. Because OCGA Section 20 and as part of one of the chapters and are read together, the two chapters are read together, the changes were made throughout all sections to ensure continuity and clarity in law. There is some concern with the fact that lowering the voting threshold would allow more opportunity for voters to put this issue up for a referendum. That is possibly true, but 10% is still a sizable, real barrier for entry. For example, a school district with just 50,000 eligible voters within it would still get 5,000 signatures. And of course, as many of y'all know, if you've ever tried to get a referendum, which I have, not only do you have to get the signatures, but the signatures have to be correct. And a lot of times you have signatures that are deemed incorrect because the person may sign it. My name is William R. Hickman, Jr., and I may just sign it William R. Hickman. Therefore, the signature would be disregarded. So it's not that easy to get the signatures. Note that process outlined under OCGA Chapter 20 provides for an independent school district to simply close its doors. The practical effect of this would be for the independent school district to be immediately merged into or up by the county. This is a different process from another option for consolidation that is provided for in the Constitution, which allows local legislation to create a referendum vote. Policy reasons for why this is beneficial. This preserves a barrier to entry without making it unusually high. 10% is still a sizable percentage required for referendum vote. Additionally, this does not change the fact that a measure must still have to be placed on the ballot and approved by the electorate. It lowers the barrier to voter participation. Reducing the requirement to 10% makes it more realistic for citizens to place an issue on the ballot, ensuring that communities have meaningful opportunities to consider. It also encourages civic engagement. A lower threshold empowers residents to initiate discussion and debate about the future of their local school system. So now we're in Section 7. Section 7 says the Department of Audits and Accounts must implement this program by July 1, 26. In general, the Audit Department must create a system to monitor the fiscal health of every school system and state charter. And I think many of y'all remember, and I'm sure you heard it, the particular system that we may or may not be talking about had missed like 14 months of state health plan benefit payments. And this was not caught until they just got further and down. And I think a lot of it too was that that a lot of schools and a lot of businesses in the school system got used to the COVID money and did not realize that they needed to cut back when the money ran out. Applying escalating interventions, report the fiscal condition. The Audit Department must create a system to apply escalating interventions, report the fiscal condition regularly. The department must also, and that's the Department of Audits now, the department must also produce regular fiscal condition reports. districts must maintain audit-ready financial records. And again, y'all remember in this particular situation, the audit had not been prepared for 6/30/23, 24, or 25. The state auditor may authorize CPA firms to perform required audits, but only with state approval and standards. We've actually got some money in the budget this time for Greg Griffin and State Department of Audits to be able to ramp up their staff in order to bring all these audits in-house if they need to. But even if they elect for the school system to hire an outside auditor, that outside auditor has to perform that audit under the auspices of Greg Griffin, State Department of Audits. And the work papers is going to be reviewed by the State Department of Audits. The findings are reviewed by the Department of Audits. The numbers, everything. So ultimately, this still falls back on the State Department of Audits. Section 8, expanded investigation authority. The state auditor may initiate full investigation when warning signs appear, such as financial irregularities, governance concerns, and evidence of misconduct. This legislation authorizes the state to make a full investigation of any local school system or state charter system. So you can see this is a pretty heavy load, but you know, as we well know, sometimes things like this may happen. It wakes us up and realizes that we should have been, this type of oversight should have been happening years and years ago. Just kind of let you know on some of this stuff, some of these school systems, if they elect to go outside and hire an outside auditor, they have to pay that out of their own budget. State does not pay for that outside auditor. As opposed to hiring the state auditor, Greg Griffin, the state does pay for that. So we still got some school systems do that, which is fine, but they'll have to pay for that out of their own money, not the state money. But still, even if they pay for it, all the auspices of that audit comes under the umbrella of the state auditor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I understood the bill based on Will Wade's presentation, but now I really understand it. Yours was very thorough and excellent. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Having the benefit of the mic, I get to ask the questions first, and then you got a few from the committee members here. How does your version differ, if at all, from Leader Will Wade's version?
I think the main part of our version is that the governor now can step in. Under this version, the governor can now step in and in reviewing the circumstance and actually dismiss the board members of that particular school system. Now we talk about the auditor and all that, but the main thing is that, as I said previously, audit findings primarily trigger corrective actions. Now they can trigger removal of board members.
That's a good segue into my next question. I got one more after that. Thank you for bringing this legislation to correct what adults are getting wrong that's harming our students. And I'll refer to, you mentioned kind of the governor's action. I'll refer to line 70. My gut reaction is if the adults in the room aren't managing things well, I have a hard time suspending them with pay. And I would almost suggest on line 70, if they're managing things so poorly, I don't see why they ought to continue to get paid while many of our teachers are getting cut at the same time. And so I would just suggest that as a potential friendly amendment.
I don't.
Sorry, line 70.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I remember the line because I kind of thought the same thing. But, yes, suspend any other member of the board member with pay, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name's Haley Corbett. I'm with the Office of the Senate Pro Tem. And I wanted to thank Chairman Hickman for bringing forth this excellent legislation. You did ask about the difference between the two bills, and I'd say if you look at the Will Wade bill, that is kind of more of a preventative bill, whereas the Senate bill is a accountability bill that also includes some of the preventative language so that they're in sync. But they are companion bills that could go together.
Okay.
To the question about with pay, I will defer to Legislative Counsel since I'm not an attorney, but my understanding was that might be a necessary provision just to make sure that due process is observed.
Okay. Legislative Counsel, do you need time to stew on that, or? Okay, you stew on that. My last question, then I'll turn it over to my friends on the committee here. On the forward funding piece, being a banker, I appreciate cash flow greatly, and I just get nervous if a system is burning through cash so much that we need to forward fund them. I just feel like we're sending more good money after bad. I almost don't want to forward fund systems until they've figured out what's going on before we start fronting them more money. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely so. And I think actually in Floor Leader Wage Bill, there's some specific situations that every month, I believe it's every month, that they, if a system is behind 120 days in state health plan benefit payments, in TRS payments, I think it's 4 or 5 of those type of situations, they have to notify the state auditor immediately. And so, and I do understand, and quite honestly, from my accounting background and your banking background, I guarantee you if someone is behind 45 days, you've got them on your watch list.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So I didn't want it 120 days, but that's what we had to do in order to make it work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for entertaining my questions. I'm going to go in order of I saw them pop up here. Number 23, Representative Townsend, the question.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Chairman, I appreciate this bill in Senator Pro Tem's office. It's a good bill, and I agree with you. I'm not sure if you can put the money in there regarding deducting the money, holding without pay. I think you'd be up for a lawsuit on that one personally, but that's just a side note. I guess a couple questions. Two questions I have. I understand about the city school systems. I've been in a city school system before as an educator. I understand the voting, and I like the part that you did the city residents would vote instead of the county, because to me the county would control the vote if not, and that's not what you're asking for. My only concern is, and the question would be, if it's doable on the state side, is let's just call it like it is. Right now, Dublin City's in trouble financially. If they go under, Lawrence County will have to eat the money that eat the cost, from what I understand. Is there any state support for whether Lawrence County takes it over through a referendum like this, or if they just go under by themselves, or have y'all addressed that?
No, sir, I don't think so. I along with Chairman Irvin and several others, I was on a Zoom with the DOE every Friday from like September through December. And the general consensus on this whole thing, this is a community problem, it's not a state problem. And that the state would not have any appetite for closing that gap on the money. It would have to be the local county and city people.
Okay, so if the county took it over in Lawrence, and they would whether they closed up and go bankrupt, or whether the voters voted them out of existence, Lawrence would eat the cost.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I didn't know if the state was willing to help Lawrence out in either scenario or neither.
Yeah. Well, the last time I saw, and I don't remember the exact number, but we know that whenever all this stuff came in play, that they had missed 14 payments, and just those payments were $6.1 million that they were behind in state health benefit payment. And I think at June 30th of 26, the number that I saw, that they were going to be in a deficit of like $5 or $6 million, even after cutbacks and layoffs and so forth. And so, to say the state was willing to pick that up, I don't think anybody that I've talked to at the state level is willing to step in and say, I'll vote for that.
No, I understand. And my concern is what yours was and Chairman Irwin's. I remember talking to you guys, I think on Jekyll, and it's like, it shouldn't have went that long. It took way too long than it should have. And I appreciate you looking into this.
Well, if you also remember in Floor Leader Wage Bill, oh Lord, I lost my train of thought, but yeah, I'll come back.
Yeah. So anyway, well, thank you. That's my biggest concern, because in other scenarios, I can't see. Okay, I started my admin career in Jefferson City Schools, and they have an outstanding school system, just like Beaufort and Marietta City and others. I can't imagine their voters wanting them to go away. So I'm not too concerned about the 10%. Could be a little bit lower, but in a financially strife area as Dublin City, I understand what you're saying. It's a tough one.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
I was saying. The wonder, of course, now in the House version bill, if the State Department of Audits, not State, but the State Department of Education had an audit committee, but it was not an active committee. Okay, in the House bill, it's highly recommended that committee become active again, and it requires them to meet so many times a year. And I think by doing that, part of the reason that this particular situation happened was nobody was monitoring it. Nobody, by not having an audit, by the audit not being prepared. See, even the list that the State Department of Education had was based upon schools that had audits. Okay, and you understand it's critical or high or whatever the terms were. Those things were based upon schools that had audits. With this particular school system not having audit, they never made it on the list. Never made it on the State Department of Education list.
It's shocking.
Yeah, it's shocking. So the whole thing was just a colossal.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Representative. I'm going to go to my right, your left. Representative Rice.
Hi, thank you, Chairman. Very good bill, and with your background, certainly see your expertise in here and desire to get this fixed. So we're looking at both the preventative, our situation now, and preventative, and I think that's great. My question for you is, when it comes to the Department of Audits and Accounting, this expanded monitoring and potential investigative responsibilities, I'm sure you've been talking in collaboration with them. Are they able, with their existing capacity, meet the standards that this is requiring, or would they have to expand their staffing in order to implement this?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. Talked to Greg Griffin many times, and of course they're very excited about this, because I think they're certain, even though they weren't involved in it, they were embarrassed it happened, and it's going to take him several years to ramp up to the point, and that's why there's wording in the bill that said even if the State Department of Audits cannot do the audit because they don't have the staff now to do it, then an outside accounting firm still comes under the auspices of Greg Griffin, or State Department of Audit. They determine the work papers, they review the work papers of outside auditors. It all still flows back to him. So it's going to take them, from talking to Greg, probably Mr. Griffin, it's going to take them 2 to 3 to 4 years to get the accounting staff up to handle this all internal. And I think we've actually put some money in the budget this time to start that process.
Oh, we are. Yeah. We're blessed to have the auditor himself here. So I've invited him up to the mic. If you would just more broadly your thoughts on the bill, y'all's ability to digest it, and next steps.
Yes, sir. To answer your question, we have our current staffing is to meet an existing audit plan to pick up the additional load. We've had lots of conversations, and in the House budget for FY27, there is an additional $1.7 million for additional staff. That equates to about the first year of a 3-year transition plan, should the legislature continue to fund. We'll pick up what audits we can as long as funding continues. If that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Auditor, while we've got you, hopefully that's your title, any other thoughts on the legislation that you'd like to share with us? Well,
no, I typically don't speak to or against legislation. I think there's lots of preventative things in here, and we're willing to step up to help.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, we're going to go to my left, your right. Number 1, Representative Wilkerson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
A gentleman I talked to last night.
How you doing? Yes, we talked last night. Quick question. How are board members currently suspended? What actions can cause a school board member to be suspended currently?
I don't know if I quite follow. I don't know if I quite.
Right now, my understanding, I guess if a school system loses accreditation by SACS, the governor can step in and suspend a school board member. Are there any other ways, indictment, are there any other ways that we can step in? And the reason I ask this is because the way boards typically work is the board hires a superintendent to run the day-to-day operations. They don't meddle in day-to-day. And so basically, it seems like we would be suspending them for actions they technically have limited control over because they can't get in the way of the superintendent in day-to-day operations. Care to comment on that? Or?
I do not know the answer, but I would love for Representative Townsend, if you know.
You cannot, it's against current Georgia law to interfere in the day-to-day operation. I know the Senate has looked into that.
You can't interfere with day-to-day operations, but you know the financials, you get them monthly. And it's quite obvious what the financials are. There's no reason this should have happened.
So what actions can be taken? Because if we can use that same logic, because current law says that the Department of Audits is responsible for looking at every school system. So do we suspend the Department of Audits?
If your board looks at your financials every month, which they do, and
Yes.
have a right to look at the numbers.
Yes.
Then they don't have the right to tell a staff member what to do, but they have the right to look at the numbers and ask the superintendent questions. And through the superintendent, ask the CFO questions about the budget. They could easily do that. And there was
Correct.
plenty of time for that to happen.
What actions can they take, though, is I guess my question is, because right now, what actions can be taken short of firing the superintendent?
Well,
to
they
correct
advise the
those?
superintendent to either get it right or that person, or they're in trouble. Then they hire somebody else in their place. And then the superintendent controls the staff. So the board could put pressure on the superintendent easily to, if the financial discipline doesn't change, the financial philosophy doesn't change, then have that superintendent go down with the ship. I mean, you change people at the helm to do that. And at the same time, you don't renew a contract. Superintendent makes the appeal to have a contract renewed, doesn't mean the board has to vote on it. If the board doesn't vote on it, then that person doesn't get a contract.
Correct. And again, I think it's worth a longer conversation, but currently superintendents typically have a 3-year contract. So typically a 3-year contract. So let's say we find out in year 1 that something's going on. We can fire that superintendent, but we continue to pay that contract out. There are several districts
Correct.
where they've paid them out. So my concern, I guess, is that I think we need to change the ability for boards to interact with their systems and be more proactive. But I think under current law, boards are very limited in how they can impact change. They can either fire the superintendent or do whatever the superintendent says.
I think in most cases, they're going to work with the superintendent for a while to correct it and get help from GSBA and GSSA. And when they do that, usually good things turn around. But if they refuse to do that, that's when you know you have troubles and issues.
This is a great discussion.
Sorry about that.
No, this is good. I guess building off of that, I'd have a question for you, Representative Townsend, and maybe for folks. You just sit back, Mr.
You sit
Chairman.
back and watch.
Yeah, you sit back.
Oh, I'm enjoying it.
And this may be for the crowd, is what level of training do we provide local school boards to be able to identify, to be able to read, understand, appreciate the financials,
They're offered training. Is GSBA here? I would let them comment on that. It's pretty extensive from what I understand.
Okay.
The superintendent definitely gets trained.
I mean, if there is training, I mean, that tells me that there is some level of accountability that the board ought to have, having been trained in these matters.
Sure. New board members are required to go through financial training that's done by the Department of Audits. And then they do local training. Sorry. They do local training on financial training as well. We offer finance training, but that is optional. They do get credit for it if they do it. So Department of Audits does the training for new board members, although others can attend. But there's required training every year for veteran members, but the new board members have to go through with Department of Audits.
I've got a friend watching online, last name rhymes with Wade, who says boards can also vote down budgets as well. So there is some culpability in this process.
Correct. And I guess Did the state and the Department of Audits know the audit was not done for the school system?
I can't speak for the state, but I think they should have.
So if we're going to hold the boards accountable, we also have to hold ourselves accountable. But, so I think the punitive thing is what worries me, is because I don't know if our current laws allow them to take the proactive measures that they can, especially if they're in the minority. I know some districts, if you're voted out 4-3, you can scream all day long, but you're going to be outvoted, but they're going to still be punished. And I know we've had situations where I've seen where they've been demanding things, and because they are in the minority, they cannot get it done. But in this case, under your bill, they would be suspended just like everybody else. But thank you for that. I mean, like I said, I think it's a good conversation to have.
No, it is, and I appreciate that. I think reading the bill, if I'm correct, the governor would have the autonomy to look at that situation which you're describing, where people were trying to give them a heads up and it wasn't adhered to or listened to, then I would assume they would be exempt from what you're talking about, the removal or whatever.
Yeah. And last question, I'm sorry, very big important bill. Highest level of monitoring, what is that? By the state auditor is deemed. I know what a pass is, we reference the state auditor giving the highest level of monitoring in their sign off. What are the levels of monitoring that is? Greg is gone, I guess.
No,
he's still here. But if you could explain the highest level of monitoring, that would be helpful.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give Greg a chance to. Do you want to? Yeah. Well, you're going back up. This is great discussion, guys. Great discussion. Thank you. While he's walking up, I'm gonna go to Representative Alallier here, number 2.
Thank you, Chair. Chairman, good morning. Thank you for the bill. I am trying to understand less the preventative measures. I'm wholly supportive of the preventative measures to be responsive to wrongdoing. I'm trying to grasp the punitive pieces. I'm looking at lines, the block of text, lines 53 through 70. So there is no current precedent that provides the board or the governor with expanded accountability decision-making powers to suspend a local board member. Is that correct? This would be a new decision-making power that the governor would have to recommend suspending a local board member?
That's my understanding, because like I said, it says that audit findings primarily trigger corrective actions. Now they can trigger removal of board members.
And that's the component or piece that gives me some pause, because and I'm not saying that most won't make decisions or issue recommendations based purely on the facts, but it expands the powers that a governor has to recommend a suspension of a duly elected local board member. And to Rep. Wilkerson's point, it's hard to pin responsibility on said wrongdoing, right, on one member, because typically boards comprise themselves of 5, 7, 9 members of a school board. How would we be able to pin a lack of responsiveness to take action, i.e. fire, i.e. not approve a budget? How would the governor, who's so far removed from that local county, be best positioned to issue that recommendation? There's some home rule kind of chafing that that's not sitting too comfortable with me.
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, thank you for the question. I think, first of all, this bill came about as a financial situation more so than anything else. So that's why it's like that. Now, I think that, and I agree with Representative Wilkerson also, I think we probably need to dig deeper into responsibilities of board members and the training of board members and blah, 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 that type of stuff. But this whole bill and Representative Wade's bill came about as a result of financial irresponsibility.
I just, I want to be very sober in looking at the current political climate that we're in, and I know it is what it is, and I would not want the punitive piece to be weaponized in any wrong way.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out, based on that block of text, what would prevent a governor, and I would imagine most of the state's Board of Education have some tie to the governor.
Yeah.
I just would not want that to be taken advantage of for political purposes.
Well, let me read, and I mentioned this a while ago, and I tell you that I wish I'd have said it again, but in the Code of Georgia, 20-2-73 allows local school board members to be suspended if the district nearly lost its accreditation or 1/2 or more of the schools in the local school district are turnaround eligible schools for the 5th or more consecutive year.
Yeah. I appreciate it, and I'm generally supportive of the bill. It's just I'm trying to process this in real time and understand the downstream effects of expanding those decision-making powers. But I appreciate the bill, sir. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, sir.
Representative Wale, I'll just two areas that kind of get me comfortable on line 59 and then 68, where they've got to conduct a hearing. So this isn't kind of a unilateral. There is kind of a public airing in this process, and then again in line 84 to 89, anyone who's suspended can apply for reinstatement. Again, so there's a process of remediation there, but I see number 23 lit up. Representative Townsend, you've been our go-to guy here.
No, this was just to make a motion at the appropriate time. Sorry.
Here, I thought you were going to help me out. All right. That does help, but yeah. Representative Glaze, number 18.
Thank you so much. I do see the wisdom in the bill, and I'm very, very supportive of making sure school systems work. I do would like to ask for two opportunities. One, where we move the 10% to 25% of the voters to 10%. And I want to talk about a large school system, maybe like, say, Atlanta versus Bremen. Bremen has about 1,500 students in its school system, and I was trying to find the number of voters, but the city is about a little over 7,000 people. So let's just say that the voters are at 50%, just make it easier. So that means there are 3,700 voters, and it takes 370 voters to actually start a process of moving that system into the larger county system, versus a larger system like maybe Marietta schools or Atlanta public schools. If you took 10% of the voters, you have to have a much smaller number. I'm concerned that in the much smaller systems that may have a need to or desire to go into the larger system, that they have the same threshold, which means it's so much lower than a regular school system, medium size or large. So I think there needs to be some steps in there. So school systems that are really small, where the voters are really small, that we take that back up to 25%. And then the much larger systems, we can leave at 10%. It just seems to make some parity and equity amongst the voters, the number of voters who could actually come out and ask for a system to go into the larger system. That's one, if we would think about that. And the other one is there a possible way that we could have school board members send alerts to DOAA around audits that have not been, or recommendations from audits that have not been adhered to in at least 2 consecutive annual reviews, which means that you have something to look at that says that a school board member is not culpable because they did sound an alarm. from audits, that audits recommendations were not being followed. And that's easy to know whether your recommendations from your audit are being followed. So I would like to see a path so that if you're in the minority and you see a problem, you've alerted, you have an opportunity to alert this actual DOA, DOE, governor's office, that we get those people there and they don't lose the opportunity to serve as duly electeds, and that their wisdom of sounding the alarm is just not made them culpable when they've been trying to sound the alarm. So that's 2 requests.
Yes, ma'am. I think the second one going forward would be easy to handle because again, everything's going to come under the umbrella of the Department of Audits. In the past, we keep bringing up this one particular school system. In the past, the audit was done by an outside auditing firm, not Department of Audits. So the Department of Audits did not know the audit was not being performed. So consequently, I think going forward with it coming under the umbrella, the Department of Audits will have a responsibility to notify the board members that the audit hadn't been performed.
Do you mind if I ask you another question on that? Would it be possible for just in a transition, maybe 2 to 3 years, there might be other school systems that are similar, having those problems, financial mismanagement or concerns, that we have at least an onboarding time where those school systems, if there's a school system that are having these issues and it's just not been alerted. I can't imagine it's only one.
No, ma'am,
It's probably more than that.
Yes,
and so can we have a threshold to allow those board members to sound the alarm and use the documentations from outside audits to say there might be a problem in our school system, and so that they're not treated as though there wasn't a concern, and they just didn't know how to get that concern to DOA. So could we onboard this in a way that gives those systems that may be in trouble and those school board members a way to share those red flags with us before we just automatically put them in a punitive situation?
I have seen a list, and there's probably, in some of the members committee probably knows better than I do, that there's probably at least 6 or 8 school systems that could very well be on this list that have not had audits in several years, and I can name off a couple, but I won't. So I think your comment is very appropriate for either the DOE who's sitting behind us, or the State Department of Audits, or the State Board of Education, to notify the board members through some type of certified letter type situation of so forth. And I think and I'll be glad to pass that on. I think that's a great idea.
Thank you so much, Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that would be considered in a hearing too. Well, here's our posture. A lot of great discussion, guys. This is really good. A reminder too, this is just subcommittee, so there's been a lot of ideas brought up. I would suggest we get with the author of the bill, kind of tease out some of those changes we may or may want to see, and then let's bring those up in full committee. We did park an idea. I want to go back to my legislative counsel here. With or without pay, what was your research?
Yeah, so that is a due process issue. Suspending someone with pay, so it requires a lesser standard of due process than suspending without pay.
So it is possible to suspend without pay?
Yes, there are some other provisions in code for officers being suspended without pay, but it would require more due process.
Okay. Well, I will heed my own advice and talk with the author and others. For the time being, I do believe we've got a motion that was made by Representative Townsend. Do we have a second on that motion? Second. Any discussion on the motion? I knew there would be. There you go.
Of course there would
Number
be.
one.
Yes, I'll just add that I do look forward to continue the conversation, because I do have great concerns, because I don't think the school system is failing on its own. everybody should have known about this because current law does require they submit to the Department of Audits, Department of Education, everybody else. So if you're going to suspend a board member who has very limited powers until we do something like an SB4, if you can't suspend them without pay, then maybe we shouldn't be suspending them. That's my long discussion about. I'm going to vote yes, but I would love to see us continue to discuss.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I knew I was in trouble. Number 18 to my left.
Chairman, I don't think you're in trouble. I think you're a wise chairman. I do want to bring up the discussion in the size of school systems and how that might motivate certain groups that are in very small systems to override a school board if there is a conflict. So I think 25% in these smaller school systems of voters should then be the threshold for changing and actually closing down a school system. And the moderate size to large should, 10% I think is fine. It's just when I look at Bremen, and I just picked one, I'm not picking on Bremen. I just see a different level of accountability, and I think 25% should be the threshold, if you would consider that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you again, committee. You guys have done a great job. And I know the bill sponsor, bill author here, the chairman, is excellent partner to us on education. With that, we've had discussion on the motion. I'm going to call it a question. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Any opposed, like sign. All right, bill passes the full committee, and we'll carry it on from there.
Thank you, committee.
And
Great
with
discussion. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that is the only bill we had on, and I will adjourn the Committee on Policy and Innovation. Thank you.
I had forgot about you. Huh? Give me about 10 minutes with her, and I'll meet you there.